Hi everyone, Nico here with another recap. Today's anime is called The Maid I Hired Recently is Mysterious. A young orphan hires a maid to help take care of his mansion but finds her incredibly suspicious. What are her secrets? Watch to find out. Yuri is a young orphan whose parents died in a tragic accident. And though he inherited a mansion, the inheritance is not large enough to cover the staff and he has to dismiss all his family's staff. He tries to make do on his own but finds that he is useless without servants and must resort to eating cheap cup noodles. One day, however, a girl in a maid outfit asks if she could join his staff. Yuri cannot afford to hire anyone, but she says she will accept living rent-free in the mansion as payment for her service. He wants to refuse her but finds her eyes familiar, so he ends up hiring the maid. Over time, he finds that she is hardworking, makes delicious meals, and is excellent at cleaning. He confronts her about her skills and accuses her of witchcraft. She teases him and jokes that she cast a spell on her, but the boy believes her as he caught her randomly muttering to herself, which he thought was her practicing spell casting. He also thinks she can read minds because she seems to know what he wants all the time, and that she cast a spell on him because he can't look away from her purple eyes. Embarrassed and overwhelmed, she runs away. Later, Yuri spies on her and wonders what her true purpose is in this mansion. When she asks about his homework, he demands to know what her nefarious schemes are for the mansion. She finds his concern cute but refuses to tell him the reason why she is here. But her charming answer just frightens him and Yuri is convinced she is evil. That night, Yuri has a nightmare that his maid is a witch that is poisoning him. He goes for a glass of water but hears strange noises, but it is only the maid cooking late at night, which he finds deeply suspicious. The next morning, he finds that she has made a large breakfast, and he demands to know what she has poisoned the breakfast with since he saw her in the kitchen late at night. She jokes that she put a love potion in the food, but he takes her confession very seriously and demands she stop poisoning his food, even though she really was just practicing cooking. Yuri is troubled that his new maid is a witch and that he doesn't know her name or anything about her past. When he confronts her, she begins to talk to him in familiar terms but is embarrassed and runs away. And Yuri believes he is on track to find the truth behind the maid, and that he can gather information to find out who she truly is. In the library, he finds out her name is Lilith and she had a history with his family. Her weird name proves even further to him that she is bad news. At dinner, he announces that he will find out her true identity and intentions. And that night, Lilith thinks about the recent past, where upon finding out Yuri's parents passed away, she rushed from her old job to the mansion as soon as possible to be his maid. After Lilith has lived with him for a while, Yuri is becoming used to new clothes and delicious meals, but he still finds her suspicious. He receives a game console from her and he accuses her of bribery, and she teases him, saying that the gifts are just for her to seduce him. Yuri announces he will not be swayed and he will own her, and she becomes embarrassed. When he is studying, she keeps interrupting him with food and offers for help. He thinks that maybe she is lonely, so he demands that she stand by him while he is studying. Later, Yuri spies Lilith walking the grounds suspiciously and stalks her into the garden, but it turns out she was just playing with a stray cat. She offers the cat to him since the cat is so friendly, but he is actually afraid of cats. He decides that he must get over his fear of cats and confronts the stray directly, until he decides to try to tame the cat with a plant. Lilith returns with food for the stray and he feeds the cat. Suddenly, a larger cat confronts them, and after the stray defends him, Yuri chases the large cat away. Lilith returns to find that he and the cat are now getting along. She is a bit jealous and asks that he pet her, and he accidentally finds her picture of him. Yuri realizes from the petting and the picture she must be preparing to cast a curse on him. Later, Yuri demands that she teach him how to cook so that he will reduce the chance of her poisoning him. And though she wants to cook his meals, Lilith starts to teach him the basics of cooking. At dinner, he finds the meal they make not as good and she jokes it's because it doesn't have her love for him in it, and he accuses her of being powered by love. That night, Yuri wonders if she stays up to cook love potions and spells, but in reality, she watches him sleep suspiciously so that she can always be looking at his face. Soon it is time for Yuri to go to school, and Lilith worries over him. He observes that she is fussing around him like his parents, not noticing his comment affecting Lilith strangely. At school, Yuri's classmate Tsukasa is worried about him as she heard about his parents' death and they were previously introduced to each at formal party. She gathers the courage to comfort him, but she can't do it. Meanwhile, Lilith is feeling lonely, so she decides to cook a meal and deliver it to Yuri. On the way, she is spotted by Tsukasa's butler Fujisaki, who recognizes her. Tsukasa attempts to comfort Yuri but hides when she sees Lilith. She eavesdrops on their conversation, and when they tease each other about their relationship, Tsukasa believes the two of them are in a forbidden master-servant relationship, and she finds Lilith incredibly suspicious. Tsukasa knows this because she has been reading a lot of books on the subject, and when Yuri states that he wants to spend his time with Lilith, Tsukasa is charmed by their interaction and promises to not interfere. When Fujisaki joins her, Lilith notices them and introduces herself. At home after Lilith is done cleaning, she goes out grocery shopping, which allows Yuri to relax and eat junk food because he is alone and unattended in the mansion. However, he soon feels lonely when she takes a long time to shop, as all the stores did not have the fresh fish she needed. Lilith also forgot her phone, so she couldn't report her situation and finds that the train back home is out of service. Luckily, she runs into Fujisaki, who gives her a ride. When Lilith apologizes to Yuri, he accuses her of casting a spell on him because he felt sad and terrible when she was gone for so long. Seeing his distress, Lilith tells him that he was brave for enduring her curse and promises that she will not leave him alone anymore. Lilith changes out of her normal maid uniform into a butler's uniform, hoping that her master would notice her. She is grateful that he hired her, but is worried that he always finds her suspicious. She thinks that for him to grow up well, she needs to get as close to him as possible and make him trust her. She starts keeping an eye on him, but he accuses her of stalking him, and one day they get into an accident. He calls her clumsy and tells her not to worry, as she will not be fired. Lilith wants to do better to make up for her clumsiness by acting more mature, but Yuri accuses her of nefarious plans and that she is trying to capture all his attention. She retreats because she can't handle his brutal honesty. She decides she will work hard to be a good listener and a dependable maid. But when she offers to listen to his concerns, Yuri just finds her more suspicious. Lilith's plans aren't working to get closer to Yuri, so she decides if they play together, she can be closer to Yuri. She asks Yuri if he would like to have fun with her, but he thinks this is a trap and is confused. They play chess together, as it is Yuri's favorite game because his father taught him to play before his parents died. And since his parents were always busy, he only had a few memories of playing and learning the game with his father. He also loved his mother's pudding, which she cooked when his father was away on trips. Lilith and Yuri play chess together as she tries her best to keep him entertained, and they play well into the night. The next morning, Lilith decides to make pudding since it is among Yuri's favorite foods. She notices that Yuri is in a bad mood after school, so she tries her best to make the pudding. But when she gives him the handmade pudding, he doesn't react at all. She is shocked that he took the pudding without accusing her of poisoning it. She stalks him because she wants him to notice her, and is shocked when he hands her a notice for a school event. The school asked the students to bring their servants, but he doesn't want to bring her because she would attract too much attention and is too suspicious. But he also doesn't have anyone to bring and asks if she can still go. Lilith agrees to go to the school, but since the school has a strict dress code, her maid outfit would attract too much attention. He asks her to dress normally, but she can't find any clothes that would fit the classy academy after trying on several outfits. At school, Yuri hopes that Lilith can make it. The last school event, his parents could not come because of their work, and he spent the time alone. As the event starts, he doesn't see Lilith enter, and wonders if she decided not to come. But Lilith arrives in a butler uniform alongside Fujisaki, who lent her a spare uniform. After the event, as they walk home, Lilith apologizes for being late, but Yuri is just thankful that she came and he was not alone. Later, the sports festival for the academy is soon, and Yuri begins training in the house. Lilith decides to cheer for him, but she is embarrassed with her cheer, although he also finds her cheer a little embarrassing. He asks her to attend the sports festival. When Lilith picks up Yuri from school, Tsukasa watches from a distance for the thrill, and her servant Fujisaki calls her creepy. Tsukasa asks Fujisaki to show some emotion, and the butler gives a heartfelt declaration that Tsukasa loves as they return home. Meanwhile, Lilith shows Yuri her training plans for the sports festival during their evening snack. Lilith begins training Yuri using tips she has compiled from her notes for events such as a ball toss, tug of war, and running, but he doesn't perform well as a stray cat keeps sabotaging his performance. Since he is sore from training that night, Lilith comes to massage him, and her massage is so good Yuri accuses her of witchcraft. The week passes by as they continue to train, and Yuri's performance significantly improves. Meanwhile, Tsukasa asks Fujisaki for help because her parents are busy and cannot go to the sports festival. Fujisaki promises to go to the sports festival with her and tells her she will not let her down. However, Tsukasa was actually using fake tears just to get Fujisaki to promise to go to the festival. The day of the festival arrives, and Lilith has stayed up late to prepare a large breakfast for Yuri's competition. Yuri is determined to win at all costs, and Tsukasa admires his determination. Yuri gets into a rivalry with the other students and sees that he is even more enthusiastic because Lilith is there to cheer him on from the sidelines. However, when Lilith promises a reward for Yuri if he wins, Tsukasa finds their master and servant relationship scandalous. She also finds it exciting and will help Yuri win at all costs. They work together and their team wins the tug-of-war event. Lilith congratulates them, and Tsukasa finds her praise of Yuri overwhelming. After the running event, Fujisaki joins the three of them for a special lunch that Lilith has made. Yuri is worried that Lilith is overworking herself, but she is just happy to be able to serve him. The next event, family and guardians must also compete, and Lilith joins the adults in an obstacle course. She questions her relationship with Yuri, but resolves to do her best after he cheers her on, and she wins first place. She is glad to be wearing a tracksuit instead of a uniform like Fujisaki. When the other students question why a servant is competing, Yuri declares that Lilith is not just a servant and that she is family to him. He announces that although she is suspicious and probably has casted a spell on him, because he cannot stop thinking of her, she is family to him. The next day, Lilith is caught in a storm when she is out shopping and returns soaked. However, she is clumsier than usual and seems distracted, such as adding salt to his tea. He watches her and is pretty sure she is sick, as she almost passes out in a hallway. Yuri sends her to rest as she has a very high temperature, but she insists on keeping working because she doesn't want to let him down. She also feels if she doesn't do a good job, she feels that he will no longer want her services. Yuri comforts her and insists that he will never fire her. The next day, Lilith is feeling much better, but she is still embarrassed with how she acted the night before. Yuri starts to help around the house with chores to lighten Lilith's workload, and she agrees when he states that he just wants to spend time with her. It is soon Halloween time, and they have been invited to a Halloween party. They discuss different costume ideas, and they arrive at the party with a fantasy theme, with Lilith as a dragon and Yuri as a mage. Tsukasa is excited to host the Halloween party and has its staff make lots of baked goods for everyone. They are excited to eat Tsukasa's food, and Tsukasa is happy to see them together. Tsukasa also orders that Fujisaki wear a costume, and the butler is forced to become a princess. They take pictures, and at the end of the day, Tsukasa apologizes to her butler for making her uncomfortable. The next day, Lilith gets a mysterious letter, and when she doesn't pick Yuri up from school, he finds her hiding the letter suspiciously. At dinner, he senses something is wrong as the food is not good, and Lilith has become very quiet. She reveals that the message was an order to return to her former place and that today will be the last day at the mansion. But a distressed Yuri orders her to stay as she promised to be by his side, and Lilith tears up the letter and promises to try to stay in the mansion with him. Yuri and Tsukasa discuss Yuri's feelings for his new maid Lilith. And though Yuri has trouble explaining how he is feeling, Tsukasa loves his budding romance. She is determined to get them closer and asks Yuri what he knows about his maid. Yuri finds Lilith suspicious with her purple eyes, her sudden appearance at the mansion, and her skill at cooking and cleaning. Tsukasa almost cannot contain herself when Yuri states that he can't stop thinking about Lilith, and that he never wants her to leave his side. Yuri wonders if he is seriously sick. Tsukasa tells him he is definitely sick, and that sickness is love. Yuri is shocked by her words, and as he heads home, he wonders what love is. Lilith greets him excitedly, but a troubled Yuri ignores her as he feels conflicted about his conversation with Tsukasa, and even teasing him, Lilith is unable to get him to respond. Lilith is worried that Yuri has lost interest in her, and she keeps teasing him about taking baths together. But he still doesn't respond, and she grows concerned that he might be sick with some illness. He tells her he might be sick with something, but before he tells her it is love, he runs away. At school the next day, Yuri asks Tsukasa to help him understand what love is, and she brings him to her mansion after class. Tsukasa lives a pampered life with many servants, and as they discuss his situation over tea time, Yuri feels jealous of Tsukasa's family, her servants, and her peaceful life, which remind him of everything he lost. But Tsukasa comforts him and reminds him that he has a wonderful maid in his employ, which helps to cheer him up. To help him understand love better, Tsukasa tries to lend him her large collection of romance novels, but is stopped by Fujisaki. Later, Yuri has an assignment to draw a subject, and he asks Lilith if he can draw her, but when he starts, she soon grows embarrassed. She tries to pose, but Yuri asks her to sit in an elegant position, and as he draws, she remarks that maybe she isn't the person he thinks she is. Yuri finishes his drawing, but immediately erases it because his art doesn't capture her beauty well enough, and he works overtime to draw her even more. After several hours, Lilith takes a tired Yuri to bed. She offers him headpats and music to help him sleep, but he asks if she can stay with him, to which she reluctantly agrees. While Yuri has grown fond of Lilith, he is hurt that she keeps so many secrets from him, and in response, Lilith sings him to sleep with a lullaby with the same melody his mother used to sing for him. Yuri wakes up the next morning refreshed but remembering little about the night before. He continues to work on his drawing, which helps him to win his school's competition. Later, Yuri dreams a half-remembered memory of playing with a girl in a garden when he is awoken by his Lilith. She has decided to use her day off to spend the morning with him, and Yuri ponders his dream. Yuri is later shocked to see Lilith in casual wear as she is planning to go into town for her day off. She spends her time walking and sampling baked goods. However, she can't help but feel worried about Yuri, and she meets up with Fujisaki at a cafe. Fujisaki tells her to relax, and Lilith wonders if the butler worries about Tsukasa while she is gone. Fujisaki isn't worried about Tsukasa, and Lilith wonders if this is because of the years-long bond the butler shares with her master. And Lilith is worried about her relationship with Yuri. Lilith is surprised that Fujisaki had become a butler, and that meeting Tsukasa must have changed her because she used to be a delinquent in high school. Fujisaki advises Lilith that if she wants to deepen her bond with Yuri, she will need to reveal her secrets to him. But Fujisaki encourages and says that she has already become a more open person compared to high school. Fujisaki is summoned and leaves, with Yuri watching them suspiciously. Yuri stalked Lilith throughout her day into the cafe because he was worried. And while at the cafe he hears a lullaby that shocks him. That evening Yuri confronts Lilith about her conversation with Fujisaki, and that he overheard that she had something important she needed to share. Yuri feels hurt that Lilith is keeping secrets from him, such as the fact that they had met each other in the past, as when Yuri heard the lullaby. He started to recall half-remembered memories of a girl with purple eyes who was brought to the mansion. Lilith reveals that she wanted to keep her secrets as she felt that he had forgotten everything about her, and Yuri promises he will do everything he can to remember. The next day Lilith finds Yuri in the garden looking at the different flowers in an effort to remember his memories of her. Lilith, who remembers that day in their past well, grows embarrassed. Tsukasa senses that Yuri is in a good mood, as he and Lilith have started to open up each other. He tells her they have already slept with each other, and Tsukasa misunderstands him. However, Tsukasa quickly realizes that Yuri still doesn't seem to realize he is in love, and she encourages him to open up about his feelings. Yuri heads home immediately with growing understanding of his own feelings, and that his suspicion of Lilith might actually be love. He arrives home and confesses to Lilith that he loves her eyes, her singing, and everything about her. She is shocked, but they are interrupted by another maid named Natsume that calls her a traitor. Natsume has arrived to finally take Lilith back to her mansion. Lilith introduces Natsume as a former co-worker and classmate. Lilith tells Natsume that she had already refused in writing to come back, but Natsume angrily states that she isn't receiving any pay, the mansion is a dump, and her master is just a child, and that this situation cannot continue. Yuri, who has just realized his feelings, tries to argue against Natsume, but he recognizes that his financial situation is very poor. Lilith cuts in, stating that no matter how many letters are sent, she won't return. Natsume refuses to let Lilith go, and she refuses to believe that Lilith is picking Yuri over her, so she decides to test Yuri's capability as a master. Natsume tests Yuri's intelligence, but although Yuri fails her question, Natsume also fails her own question. She then tests his financial knowledge, and he acknowledges though he is poor at the moment, he will be working hard to save up to provide for him and Lilith. Natsume also fails because she is also broke. In her anger she knocks over a lamp, and Yuri is concerned that she could get hurt by stray glass, and an embarrassed Natsume feels like this is a trick and that Yuri is using kindness as a weapon against both her and Lilith. She tries again to persuade Lilith to leave, but Lilith appeals to their friendship as former classmates to respect her choices, and Natsume reluctantly agrees. Yuri remembers Tsukasa's words about love, and he asks Natsume if she is in love with Lilith. She denies it, but after he states that he loves Lilith a lot, she admits that she too loves Lilith. And that's why she came all this way and is trying so hard to get her come back. Lilith apologizes to Natsume for causing her so much worry, but she still won't return. Natsume decides to spend a few days at the mansion to observe how Yuri is treating Lilith, such as seeing how many chores she needs to do to take care of the mansion all by herself. Natsume sees that Lilith is working a lot all by herself to keep the mansion clean and maintained, and she worries that Lilith isn't getting enough rest. When Yuri arrives after school, she is shocked with how friendly they treat each other, and she starts to have doubts about bringing Lilith back, as she seems happy at Yuri's mansion. At dinner, Yuri wonders if Natsume actually is a maid because she doesn't seem the type of person that does maid tasks. She tries to prove herself but fails at every task, and then accidentally dumps water on both herself and Lilith. Lilith reveals that Natsume really is a maid, but she was very clumsy, so the two of them often had to help each other. As they clean up, Lilith thanks Natsume for coming, as it was a good distraction for Lilith after Yuri's unexpected confession. Natsume tells her that Lilith is the happiest she has ever seen her, and since Lilith is happy, she is also happy. At school, Yuri tells Tsukasa he finally confessed to Lilith, but when he tells Tsukasa that someone new joined them, she gets the wrong idea. Tsukasa is excited to meet Natsume because she is a rival just like her romance books. Natsume has come to spy on Yuri, and when she sees Tsukasa and Yuri, she wonders if they are secretly dating. Tsukasa can only focus on the love triangle and is dragged away by Fujisaki, who is recognized by Natsume as a dangerous delinquent. Natsume greets Yuri and walks him home, stating that she will probably be leaving soon. They run into random thugs on the road, and she prevents them from beating him up. Back at the mansion, they argue about Lilith's best qualities, and Lilith is embarrassed to be caught in the middle. They decide to plan a surprise Christmas party for Lilith because it is close to the holidays. and Yuri will prepare the mansion while Natsume distracts her by taking her into town. Yuri tells Tsukasa the plan and Tsukasa goes overboard with too many romantic ideas. Instead, Yuri asks for her help for the actual party. The day of the party, Lilith is concerned about leaving Yuri alone, but agrees to go into town with Natsume. After the maids leave, Tsukasa and Fujisaki come to help decorate the mansion and prepare food for the party. Yuri feels like Tsukasa is really lucky to have a butler like Fujisaki, as he watches their close relationship. Meanwhile in town, Natsume tries to distract Lilith, but she just ends up hurting herself. They recover in a park and Natsume tries to confess to Lilith but is interrupted when Lilith thanks her for the day out, as it helps lift her spirit for the holidays. They have a good time in town and Natsume gives Lilith a pen for a Christmas present, as she will be heading home soon and she would like Lilith to write to her. Natsume is shocked to see how well the mansion is decorated and she runs in after Lilith, but is caught in a surprise of her own. Yuri could not keep a secret from Lilith, so the surprise party ended up being a surprise for Natsume. They celebrate Christmas until Tsukasa and Natsume fall asleep, with Yuri leaving a note for Natsume thanking her for spending time with them during the holidays. After the mansion has been cleaned up after the holidays, Natsume and Yuri are returning from a shopping trip, and Natsume thanks Yuri for helping her become more open with her feelings, though she still denies she loves Lilith. Meanwhile, Lilith answers the door one day to see her old master. He has come to check up on Natsume and to see how Lilith is doing. Lilith apologizes for the trouble she has caused, and the master is just happy to see that she is doing well and is maintaining Yuri's mansion well. Lilith reveals that when she became an orphan, Yuri's parents opened their home to her and took her in. She also met a young Yuri at this time. After a year at the mansion, she went to an academy for servants with Yuri's parents' blessing. And when she graduated, she started working at the old master's mansion. But then she heard news of Yuri's parents' death and she felt she had to return to Yuri. Natsume and Yuri arrive back from shopping and are introduced to the old master. Yuri thinks that he has come to take Lilith away and defends her, but the old master is just happy to see Lilith is doing well. Natsume then leaves with the old master. At dinner, Lilith and Yuri feel the mansion has become a lot quieter as they both miss Natsume's presence. They decide to go into town the next day to brighten their spirits, and Yuri loves Lilith's casual dress. They are spotted by Fujisaki and Tsukasa, and Tsukasa wants to stalk them but is stopped by the butler, who says that they should give them the space they deserve. After spending time in a cafe, Lilith and Yuri go to visit the graves of Yuri's parents. Yuri hopes that wherever they are doing well, and when Lilith is alone she promises she will try her best to take care of Yuri in their memory. That night they enjoy the holiday lights in town and Yuri confesses to Lilith again as it starts to snow. Yuri tells Lilith that he may not know exactly what love is and what he feels for her, but no matter what he wants to have a future with her. Lilith tells him that she can't yet give him an answer, but she will stay forever by his side no matter what happens. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it and I will see you in the next one.